Today, I'm going to be talking with representatives of Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Los Angeles. Politics and the media have, for the most part, shown themselves either impotent, indifferent, or in cahoots when it comes to confronting and rolling back the takeover of the United States by the super rich and the super corporations. Since the days of Clinton, we've been reminding ourselves of the words of FDR to progressive pressing for the New Deal, "Make me do it." Famous story. He was not a radical Franklin Roosevelt. He came to the White House with a fairly moderate platform. And when he was confronted by labor and farmers and so on, progressives of the time, and said, "We need these reforms," he said, "Very good, now make me do it." We've been envying the attention and the power granted to the Tea Party. As I've mentioned before, they got enormous coverage and, quote, credibility based on demonstrations and turnouts much smaller than, for instance, the immigrant population turning out for immigration reform. Millions have been marching all over Europe in response to the austerity measures that make the people pay for the failures of the financial class. Millions marched in the Arab awakening when hunger, poverty, corruption, and autocracy proved too much to bear, and social media connects and informs the people like never before. And the thing that we've been saying over and over again, when will Americans take to the streets? September 17th, a small group of demonstrators camped out in a downtown New York park, and Occupy Wall Street was born. Occupy Los Angeles emerged a week ago, October 1st, Saturday. Both are alive and well, and as of Saturday, the Occupy movement has spread to hundreds of cities in the U.S. and abroad. There's been plenty of carping in the mainstream media about the movement's lack of focus, lack of clear message, lack of specific platform or demands. And the closest thing to a brand for the movement so far is the claim that we are the 99%. We are the 99% who are not getting the American dream because the 1% is taking way too much off the top. Now, I think this is actually a wonderful opening. It's based on cold, hard facts. It is inclusive. Even a Tea Partier knows that they are part of the 99%. Inequality is problem number one in this country, from which everything else follows, including the corrupted political system that is unable to meet the challenges we face, whether it's education, health care, climate change, jobs, etc. I don't think anyone really knows where this goes. At some level, I believe, and Paul Krugman said the same thing in an op-ed yesterday, a lot of us have grown so resigned to the dominance of money in our society that I'm not sure too many have a plan on how to get from here to where we need to get. I think we're each going to have to invent whatever role we're going to play as this story unfolds. And I'm going to be joined, although no one is here yet. There are two representatives of Occupy LA that will join me in the studio, and two representatives of Occupy Wall Street that we'll have on by phone. And as of this moment, the folks from Occupy LA are not in the studio, and as far as I can tell, we haven't been able to connect with the folks from Occupy Wall Street on the phone. When I say that I'll have spokespeople or representatives, I don't necessarily mean that they speak for everyone involved, because I don't think anyone does at this moment. I plan to ask them to tell their individual personal stories, as well as report to us on what's happening around them and what they think it means. My guest will be Nalini Stamp. She's an organizer for the Working Families Party in New York City for 3 years. She's from Brooklyn. She's been active in social and political movements since the 2004 election, where she volunteered by registering voters. For 3 years, she's worked on various political campaigns and the Working Families Party, a political party that's known for leading the campaign in that city for a minimum wage. Also by Melanie Butler, who's a New York City-based activist. She's coordinator of Code Pink's Truth Set Free campaign. She's worked with war resistors, peace groups across Canada. She holds an MA in political science from the University of British Columbia. She's originally from Vancouver Island, the birthplace of the Raging Grannies, and she considers herself a Raging Granny in training. And then from L.A., I'll have Lisa Clapier. She's a video producer who's directing the live stream from City Hall. And then she is bringing another activist from downtown with her when she arrives. Okay, so we have Nalini on the phone. Nalini?
Hi, Terrence. How are you?
Very good. My first question to you, Nalini, is I'm going to ask you two questions, and I'm going to ask each of you in turn. One is, just first, who you are. What's your path to the work that you do in the world these days before you got to Occupy Wall Street? And then second, how you got involved with the demonstration in New York.
Well, I started getting politically involved around 2004, registering folks to vote. I wasn't of voter age yet, and but I thought it was really important to get folks to vote. It was a very important election season, very, very important presidential race. So I got involved in that way, kind of using the theater and art to get in the political movement. And, independently outside of this, I am an organizer as well. And from there, I found out about Occupy Wall Street from one of my neighbors, actually. She told me that there was this, occupation going on, and she wanted me to get involved. I was a little skeptical at first, but then on September 17th, the first day of the program, went down and saw the most inspiring thing that I've seen in the last 10 years. A bunch of people who were just fed up with the institution and what was going on. So decided to stay the night and have been helping out at the occupation ever since.
Okay, let me ask you two questions about what you said. One, skeptical at first. Looking back at when someone told you about it and you were skeptical, what were the considerations that came up for you?
Well, being an organizer for the last 3 years, I was definitely skeptical of just, turnout in general. I know their goals are really strong at first, 20,000 people to fill up and occupy. And also just kind of, it's right before election season, and I didn't know if this was supposed to be tied into that, but wanted to make sure that this was really just about a movement and not necessarily the political process.
Interesting, even though you organize for a political party.
Yep.
And but at some point you just go, well, I'll check it out. Is that basically it? What have I got to lose? Let me see if something's going to happen.
Yes.
And then you've been down there ever since. What sort of a role or roles are you playing? And I believe you told me we met, by the way. Nalini and I met in Washington this past week, where we were both in D.C. for the Rebuild the American Dream conference. That you still work at the Working Families Party during the day and report to Occupy Wall Street each night.
Yep.
And what sort of roles are you playing at Occupy Wall Street?
Well, originally I kind of said one of their big things was, for me was, sorry about that, just walking around trying to find Melanie.
I know.
One of the largest things that I said was, there was an outreach team, an outreach working group working to bring more people to the occupation, and I have organizing skills by nature and by my job, so kind of let my hand out to outreach team and joined the working group. And also, I've had experience in the past being a summer camp counselor for many years, facilitating large groups of children. So I thought, why don't I try it on a variety of ages as well and try to facilitate and help facilitate the general assemblies that happen every night.
Tell for people who don't know that much. What people know, I think, and there's probably a wide range of knowledge there, but they know people showed up on the 17th. People decided to camp out. People stayed. It grew. There have been confrontations with the police. There have been support from labor, etc. If you can, tell some of the story of how we got from the 17th to today.
Well, I think one of the key things was, a part of the outreach team, is that every single person who, came down there for the first couple of days was a part of outreach. And if they all talked to 10 of their friends or 15 of their friends and spread the word and try to kind of just build on the movement, that's extremely important. And I think that's what you saw. Every other day, more and more people were coming in, hearing about it, telling more of their friends, telling more of their colleagues. People were just stopping by just to see what was going on here. So I think that was a key to it. I also think that the two major marches that we had on the first two Saturdays, the first one being up to Union Square, where unfortunately a bunch of young women got pepper sprayed in the face, and just reclaiming that, the fact that we took the streets and reclaimed the streets in an act of civil disobedience, but nonviolent civil disobedience, I think was also inspiring and also brought more people to the table, because a lot of folks, they see London, they see all these global movements that are going on because we're in a global economic crisis, and they saw a lot of rioting going on. So a lot of people were kind of afraid to come join. But they've seen so far that this has been completely nonviolent and that we're very committed to that. And I think that's been one of the key things that has brought more people to the table as well.
This week was the passing of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said some things in his, hardly a grassroots organizer, but he said some things in his commencement address at Stanford in 2005 that I think speak to many of the people that are occupying Wall Street, occupying Los Angeles. So Steve Jobs, who died at 56 this past week, in his Stanford commencement address, remember, of course, he was a college dropout, in 2005, he said, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon," because I believe at that point he already had the pancreatic cancer. "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and your intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." The words of Steve Jobs in a commencement address at Stanford in 2005. Nalini, those words speak to you?
Well, yeah. I think that you definitely have to take in kind of what is going on and really apply it to just everything being very relative. And in the moment and in the face of although I haven't been in the face of death, I think that those are very strong words to use when people are, when most of the nation is not covered with health insurance. And, these are the people that we're fighting for, yet the top 1% own 60% of the wealth in this country and the lands.
And almost all the gains, one of the things that we've tracked on this show many times is that real wages for most of this country stopped rising in 1973. Even though we've had bubbles one after the other since then, almost all of the wealth gains since the mid-'70s have gone to the upper 10%, 5%, and 1%. And this whole recognition, actually, of the 1% is a fairly new one. I think people didn't realize for a long time, and part of it had to do with how the IRS actually broke out its statistics. And as computers improved and they began breaking things out in more divisions, that's when people really realized that, yeah, the top 20% has a disproportionate amount, the top 10%, the top 5, so on. But when you get to the top 1 and the top 1/10 of 1, it is staggering how much of this nation's wealth for the last 40 years has gone to those people. And thus, we're the 99%. Was that we're the 99% a rallying cry from the very start, or was that one of a few that kind of got picked up and became prominent?
I think, as I told you, I wasn't really involved in the beginning General Assemblies leading up to the occupation, but I do think that from day one being there, the chant, we are the 99%, really, really kind of resonated with a lot of people, and also it brings a solidarity amongst different class structures, even the middle and working class that has been pitted against each other for plenty of years now. And I think that message, we are the 99%, just resonates with a lot of people. And so I do think that picked up from day one, because it really is almost all-inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that as I said in my intro, I believe that as much as people say, well, what are the demands, what's the platform, what's the clear message, and sort of say, you don't have a good communication strategy, I would say the single cry, we are the 99%, is brilliant in terms of its identity, and it's inclusive, and it says, you can choose not to march with us, but you don't have much choice about whether you are one of us.
Right. Absolutely.
Those choices are made by the 1%. What's the relationship between the folks at Occupy Wall Street and City Hall in New York and the police in New York? And let me just say that I'm still hoping that my Occupy LA folks are going to join us. But one of the things that has happened here is that we've actually had positive response from a number of city council folks, and the city council in LA has a motion of support. Let me just read a quick quote from an article by John Wiener, fellow KPFK programmer, and this was on thenation.com's blog October 5th. In a move that dramatizes the political differences between Los Angeles and New York, and I'm going to ask you about this, Nalini, several members of the LA City Council today declared their support for Occupy LA and introduced a resolution that will put the city officially on record as endorsing the demonstration camped at City Hall. City Council President and declared mayoral candidate Eric Garcetti visited the encampment on the 4th and said, stay as long as you need. We're here to support you. Councilmember Bill Rosendahl said Occupy LA demonstrators were making democracy work. 7 of 15 council members signed the resolution, which declares, among other things, that today corporations hold undue power and influence in our country, and notes that the LA County Federation of Labor has officially endorsed its sisters and brothers in Occupy LA. And the full LA City Council won't vote on the resolution until Tuesday of this week. But one reporter at the council meeting that day, Simone Wilson of the LA Weekly, wrote, quote, judging by their dramatic, heart-wrenched personal responses to occupiers during the meeting's public comment period, no black sheep council member is going to make the move of voting no on such a popular cause. Interesting. And as I was down at the Occupy LA site yesterday, I kept hearing from so many people that they are embracing the relationship they have with the government and with the police, and I believe the L.A. group has refrained from even civil disobedience. How would you describe your relationship in New York?
Well, numerous city council members have come down and supported us throughout these weeks, and have given us great words of advice and great words of kind of, solidarity as well, and shown solidarity and showed their support. Some have come down multiple times as well to participate in our movement. As far as the city council as a whole, I'm not sure where that can go. I mean, the Progressive Caucus has been really supportive of us and came down to this huge march that we had on October 5th. So I think as a whole, it's hard to tell because we do have we have 30-something members in our city council.
And what about you've had how many interactions with the police? There was the pepper spray on the first Saturday march, and there was the arrest of 700 on the second Saturday march, or the recent Saturday march. Have there been others as well?
Well, after the big march that we had on Wednesday, there were several arrests. There was also another pepper spraying incident as well. But I think that, I mean, it's hard, you know. The police are, you know, answer to the commissioner, who answers to the mayor, who, you know, the mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, is a part of the 1%.
Okay. And we have someone on the phone from Occupy LA, Clark Case. Clark Davis. Clark, welcome to Free Forum and KPFK.
Thanks, Terrence. Appreciate it.
Okay. I was expecting a couple of representatives from Occupy LA. They have not appeared at the station, so we tracked you down. Thank you for being available and joining us. I've been speaking with Nalini Stamp, who has been at the Occupy Wall Street since September 17th. So, Clark Davis, Nalini Stamp, welcome to each other.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
And I'd like you to answer some of the same questions that I asked Nalini so far, and that is your own personal path prior to the day you showed up at Occupy LA. What were you doing? What's your work? What's led you to where you are at this point? And then your decision to go down there, when it was, and when you decided to get significantly involved. Clark Davis from Occupy LA.
I was following very closely what was happening in and on Wall Street from it began. Had contemplated going to Washington, D.C. for the October 2011 movement, and immediately started getting incredibly excited about what I was seeing unfold. And within a matter of days of the kickoff of the Wall Street movement, I heard the whisperings of something happening in Los Angeles and immediately kind of started following it. Went to the Obama protest up on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood, and met some folks from the very early formations of the Occupy Los Angeles movement, and showed up at their General Assembly meeting the following night, and I think 5 meetings with them, and I've been down here for over 200 and some odd hours since the occupation began, and just gone home a couple occasions to grab a few things.
Okay, and I would like people to know who is down there. So, what is your, what is Clark Davis up to when he's not occupying LA?
I have from the very beginnings of our occupation been responsible for keeping our entire system apparatus up and running, which is allowing us to basically communicate amongst ourselves and with anyone basically around the world, and with 5 or 6 different social media websites. Very good.
No, what I actually was asking you, Clark, is what's your line of work? What would you be doing if you weren't occupying LA?
A contractor and a woodworker, and I design and build functional art, and I'm a photographer.
Interesting. So when you're not at Occupy LA, you're primarily concerned with being a contractor, building things and so on, and yet here you are, the media coordinator.
Okay, and what I'm telling everyone is that for us to be effective, we have to build a solid foundation. That foundation has to be reinforced, it has to be level, and it has to be strong. And until you have that, you can't really build anything on top of it that's going to be of much use. So what I'm trying to do here is take that analogy and I'm trying to build an incredibly strong media team and movement that we then utilize to further the message.
Very good. Good use of metaphor. Clark, can you describe what's happened in the 8 days of L.A.? In other words, high points, turning points, anything like that for someone to sort of fill in the picture. When I was down there last night, it looked to me like, I don't know, about 1,000 people. Is that probably about right?
I think collectively, at times, there was probably as many as 2,000 people here throughout the day. So we had live music starting at 10 in the morning. I think we wrapped up around 7 or 8 o'clock in the afternoon. We had Tom Morello, Rage Against the Machine, many other local, very talented artists that showed up. Bands. We had poets. We had some philosophers. We had some people who lost their homes that to tell us their story, and we also just had an opportunity for anyone there to basically get up and talk to the people here that are supporting the movement.
And so that's a Saturday. What happens during in the week when perhaps people are less able to get down there, or on the other hand, there's a lot more city business being conducted in and out of those doors of the building?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this week is going to be a fantastic time for us to reflect on what's happened in the last week, to regroup. We've got, I think, somewhere in the vicinity of 35 different committees, all of which are there to ultimately support the city in a sense that we've now created, on the lawn of City Hall. So we are rapidly becoming a self-sufficient city, and to make us run effectively and efficiently, we've created committees which on a solely democratic system come up with ideas and strategies that are going to help us basically exist, and then not only exist but be incredibly effective at charting a course.
Now, when you say extremely democratic and so on, this is really, if I'm not mistaken, and after Clark answers this, I want to go to you, Nalini, for a reflection on Occupy Wall Street. This is really sort of self-organizing, isn't it? In other words, as far as I can tell from anyone I've spoken to, anything I've read, there was no stealth leadership that had everything figured out and then plopped it down and invited people to join. This is really, as far as I can tell, emerging daily, organizing itself daily. Obviously, that's a painstaking and perhaps a not entirely efficient way to organize, but it is highly democratic. Clark?
Yes, it can be a little cumbersome, but generally the things that we're deciding upon now are foundational issues. And the foundational issues, assuming that they meet some common parameters, which is they truly support the movement in nothing but positive ways, and can do no harm to it, it's generally pretty easy to get the group to give it a thumbs up. So those are the foundational issues that we're focusing on now. When we decide to start getting political, things are definitely going to get a little bit more challenging.
So by foundational issues, you just mean how the place will run?
Yes. I think, again, to create an environment that is effective at getting the message out, the foundation has to be built, the teams have to be coordinated, they have to be speaking amongst themselves, and all the information needs to be disseminated in a proper fashion, which allows us to basically control our message. And so that's what we're working on right now before I would say we go political.
Okay. Nalini, how about the methods and the sense of organization in Occupy Wall Street?
Well, this is a leaderless movement, and we have all of our working groups are in touch with each other through the General Assembly, and just being in this collective environment. And we and I've said this many a times, is that we don't really necessarily need demands. This is about a movement, and the institutional left can have their demands, and we can support them. But as far as occupiers, we are really just sending a message by being there and occupying space that we've been pushed too far as the 99%. So it's more about, of course, nothing's perfect when it starts, but we're really just making sure that all the groups and working groups and the folks who come down here are in tune with what's going on, are aware of what's going on, and can help out. And it's all about participatory direct democracy. So the more people that participate, the better. And I think that's kind of how our model has been going with the organizational structure.
Okay, and you mentioned General Assembly. Both Occupy LA and Occupy Wall Street have General Assemblies. Nalini first, how does it operate in New York?
Well, General Assembly, you have facilitators that help facilitate the group and to facilitate the discussions that go on. We have working group report backs, where every working group gives a report on kind of what they're doing on a daily basis and what they need help with and what we can do for them or what events. Then we have general announcements, which are points of information, events, activities, things that are just going on that we can be a part of, and things that are going on maybe in the different boroughs or different organizations or just different individuals and what they're doing, and just letting that to clear the air. And then we have agenda items, and items are determined by working groups if they have a proposal for the assembly that we need to come to consensus on. That is, something that has to do with, security or ethical reasons or financial reasons, because, it's all about coming to consensus on those issues.
So, and for something to pass the General Assembly, which is basically made up of whoever shows up that hour, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
And then it's unanimous consensus in both cities?
Well,
Go ahead, Nalini, and then Clark.
In New York, we have, first we try to get complete consensus, and if there are certain blocks or certain measures, we go to a 9/10 vote.
Interesting. And in L.A., Clark?
Yes, we've adopted basically something that's quite simpler, or quite similar. If there's 300 or 400 people that all think it makes sense to have fresh water on the site, and that thinks we should have, old water on the site, it doesn't make sense for that one guy to be able to hold up drinking fresh water. So there's just some instances when you may have a few people that it is just going to be impossible to convince that doing the right thing makes sense. And so to move the conversation forward, at one point in time we have to just say there's enough of us that support this that we can no longer spend time on this issue when there's much more pressing issues that are still unresolved.
Very good. I'm Terrence McNally. I'm speaking with Nalini Stamp, an organizer for the Working Families Party in New York City who has been sitting in at Occupy Wall Street since its origin on September 17th, and Clark Davis, media coordinator for Occupy Los Angeles, been down there since that action started on the grounds of City Hall in Los Angeles on October 1st. To learn more, you can go to occupywallstreet.org and occupylosangeles.org, and both of them also have Facebook pages. Let's shift, if we can, to, I had asked Nalini probably before you got on, Clark, just about the 99%, and my comment is that I think that is a wonderful identity to claim. It's inclusive, it's inviting, it's broad, and so on. And I'm going to ask Nalini first and then Clark. What are, first of all, in Wall Street, and then I'll ask you about L.A., are you moving toward some sort of a statement of mission or demands or requests or a platform, or are you not on Occupy Wall Street?
Yes. And I also just want to thank you for having me on the program. Unfortunately, I do have to leave soon.
Oh, okay.
But I will answer this. We got some meetings to get into. But we, at least at Occupy Wall Street, and this also to clarify, it's occupywallst.org, because street goes to something else.
Oh.
Yep. We here don't feel necessity. I mean, we've tried to have a conversation started on our goals and demands But right now, if we submit demands to Wall Street or to corporate America, we're saying that they have the power. And this is really a movement about building power for ourselves. We don't necessarily feel that we need demands at this moment because it's about a movement. It's about building momentum and about, kind of just saying that, we are the 99%, the 1% is to blame. The 1% are the ones who own most of the wealth in this country. And if we keep on with that framework, we can bring all different types of people to the table. And that also, it's kind of an umbrella under all these different issues. And as I said before, we are totally happy with supporting anyone's demands for like institutional left or organizations or folks' demands. But as a body, as a General Assembly, and as a movement, we feel that we don't necessarily need demands to actually either seem legitimate or to move forward. We just need to keep on pointing out what is going wrong with this country.
Let me ask you one last question before I let you go, Nalini. Do you feel that in New York you're under a bit of a ticking clock because we're in early October now, but at some point the weather is going to get much tougher for people camping out in New York City? Do you feel like you've got to accomplish something before that happens?
Not necessarily. I think and I've talked to many people about this. This is really, first of all, there are so many committed people who are from areas that are north of New York. I mean, I'm a New Yorker born and raised, but, I've had folks from Maine who've come down and Vermont saying that they're camping out through the winter, and I trust them a lot better to make that decision because it doesn't get as cold as it does there here. But I really feel that we are a committed group of individuals, and also, as a group, we're looking into places where we can occupy as well, whether it be some office space or something else we will find an alternative through the winter. I mean, everyone seems to me that they're sticking it out for the long haul, so we don't necessarily need demands. We just need more people to come so we can find a place and, find a plan of what we're going to do during the winter.
Last question for you, Nalini. What is success?
Well, that's a hot button issue right there.
To you?
I think that to me, first of all, this has been very successful as it is at this point. We've gotten now national and international attention, and keep on growing. We're over in 200 plus cities across the country. That in itself is extremely successful. So I applaud everyone who, out there in LA, out there in San Francisco, everyone across the country. In Minneapolis, they just started a couple of nights ago. So that's really kind of primarily focused. We have had major leaps of success, but it's not over. I think that true success is finally starting to see things change and see people bothered, see the financial institutions try to change their ways, because then that we've done something. We've really brought it to their attention that they need to change their ways and the 1% changing and advocating for more regulation on them. And I think that's really, another thing of success. But in the long term, we're looking at a long process of really reforming the way this country works and operates within the financial institution and the top 1%.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Nalini Stamp. Thank you for taking the time to join with us. She is an organizer for the Working Families Party in New York City and a member of Occupy Wall Street since its origin, September 17th. Thanks a lot, Nalini Stamp. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, good luck out there.
And I'm still have on the phone with me Clark Davis, media coordinator for Occupy Los Angeles. You still there, Clark?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let me ask you the question that I was asking Nalini, which is, what is success?
I think success initially is allowing this movement, which seems to be sweeping the nation, to get a foothold. To me, that's initial success, that we organize enough that we can start solidifying a base and begin a discussion amongst ourselves to further the potential aims of the movement.
Okay, and I had asked Nalini, but I didn't get to you when I realized she was going to have to leave. I stuck with her. Is there the thought or the plan among the folks at Occupy LA to move toward some sort of a political declaration, demands, platform, any of those sorts of things?
I would say without a doubt. I mean, I am bombarded on a regular basis with people coming to me with ideas and suggestions about how to solve the problems that exist in this country today, which I think are from the top to the bottom, to the bottom to the top. They're pervasive. They're very obvious what these problems are. And to make a couple of plans at this point in time, to me, would just be completely counterproductive, because it's not so much about a few issues, it's about a system. Once we can create a dialogue where we're real clear about what our concerns are, about what we feel like has happened to this country specifically in the last 10 years, or overwhelming in the last 10 years, until those issues are addressed, it's difficult for us to come up with a cohesive and clear answer to those questions. So, again, I would say we're going to continue to build a solid foundation here. We're going to keep the dialogue open amongst ourselves. We continue to have meetings every single day about these issues. And as our movement matures, as we mature, there's no doubt about it that at one point in time we're going to get political.
Okay. Let me ask you, again, I'm speaking with Clark Davis, media coordinator of Occupy LA. Somewhere around 2,000 people there yesterday, Saturday, hundreds there every night. There have been criticisms from the media and from both self-declared allies as well as self-declared opponents. Let me just mention a few of them and then give me some response, okay? Too disorganized, no clear message, no clear demands, no clear plan forward. That's from, I think, both allies and opponents. From opponents, we've heard from Eric Cantor that you're mobs. We've heard from Kane that you're victims. We've heard from others on the right that you're a distraction, that you're tools of Obama, the Democratic Party, and labor to distract from what's really wrong. What are some of your responses? And I'm not just saying you personally, Clark, but what you hear, what people feel, what people say in terms of some of those criticisms.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because over the last 7 days or so since I've been here, we're not talking about politicians in particular. We're talking about the system in general. So I haven't heard his name mentioned in the last, 2 or 3, 250 hours or so more than once or twice. I haven't heard really any politician's name mentioned because it's almost irrelevant, because we know the system is so broken. It doesn't matter who we vote for. The Republicans and the Democrats seem to be taking us. It's a race to the bottom, and I think the Republicans will probably just get it there a little bit faster than the Democrats. So the problems are so pervasive that, again, making any single specific demand at this point in time would completely and absolutely belittle the movement. So, again, if we can truly get, 1,000 cities across the country that you have participants in the movement that all understand the core issues here, which, again, are pervasive and deeply embedded within the structure of our supposed democracy, if we can all come together and start speaking the same language, then I think our voice is being heard now, but if you have 1,000 cities and you've got, tens of people in each city, it's going to create a movement, a groundswell that will be something that no politician will be able to turn his back on, and at the very least could put an immense amount of pressure on the next political campaign.
And what is that message that you think seems to be universally acknowledged by people there? When you say the pervasive breakdown of the system, is it just the rampant inequality and then the fact, and I'm putting words in your mouth here, but the rampant inequality and then the fact that inequality has led to the domination of money over citizenry?
Yeah, I would say the majority of the people here, including myself, but the majority of the people here feel as though their voice and their vote no longer count, that they've been removed, in a sense, almost entirely from the political discussion. So they're a part of a democratic society, whereas everyone's vote is supposed to count equally, and it's gotten to a point where their vote doesn't count at all. And there's people here that come from every single different walks of life. There's people that come here from many, many different countries. There's people that are 18, 19 years old. There's people that are 75 years old, and they're all feeling the same thing because the way that the system stands now, truly, 2% of the population of the United States control the majority of wealth, and that's just a plain simple fact. The onus has been put on what was a middle class, which is rapidly turning into lower class, if you will, because the money has been sucked out of the equation and is drifting around in offshore bank accounts and not in the pockets of Americans who, in my eyes, deserve a just and fair existence in this country.
How do you think this Occupy movement relates to the movements in Europe or the movements in the Middle East?
They're all directly connected. I mean, it's the disenfranchisement of the people of the planet. That all across the planet, you see the exact same thing happening, and that's people being subjected by corporate interests, by powerful political elite interests all across the planet. And I think, people are tired of being treated as a non-human, as a nobody, as a number, and it's no way to live. And you can only take so much of it before you push back. And I think that, the action, I think what's really interesting here, and I mentioned this to a few people last night, that if the police had just left the people in New York City occupy that park, they probably would have just left after the winter. But instead, they maced them, they beat them, they had one of the biggest mass arrests in American history. They just let them be and let their voice be heard, quite likely nothing would have happened. But the fact that the police felt this was a threat to the system, they behaved in a way that they thought was appropriate, but ultimately has ignited this movement. It seems as though now definitely nationwide, and it seems as though it could be going global in a certain sense.
Let me ask you a very simple personal question. This will be the last one. How long can you afford to stay involved?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. I just started a cabinet job last week. It's about a 4-month project, and my brother was out here yesterday, and he said, so what's going to happen when you're done with your job? And I said, I'm going to sell all my tools, and I'm going to move in. He said, you're going to move in where? I said, to City Hall.
So you're saying 4 months from now you're going to move into City Hall?
3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks. Weeks, not months. Okay, yep. That was Clark Davis, media coordinator of Occupy Los Angeles. Go down. It's City Hall. The grounds around City Hall. There are people there every day, and you really get a sense of humanity and of people who have come together in a very, very positive direction. Thank you, Clark.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, so I want to give you a couple of notes as we check off here. One thing, I'd like to recommend a documentary that I saw this week that I would love you to catch up with. We are basically, this is the 10th anniversary of the invasion of Afghanistan, and the documentary called Where Do Soldiers Come From? Open Fridays, playing for a week at the Sunset 5. I saw it and a Q&A with the producer-director and one of the 3 young men that she profiles. Filmmaker Heather Courtney returned to her hometown in rural Michigan and started filming 3 19-year-old guys who had decided to enlist in the National Guard. She follows them and their families in their joining the Guard, their being in the Guard when it's just 1 day a month, their deployment. She goes over with them to Afghanistan and hangs out with them in their barracks, and then goes out with them on missions in which they basically, all 3 of them, are in trucks that go out looking for IEDs. So these are the people that are clearing the roads for other people, and so there are numerous explosions, numerous head injuries, etc. And then she, after their 9-month deployment, she comes back with them to rural Michigan and sees the difficulties of transition back to life, back to civilian life after being at war. It's simple. It's honest, it's compelling, it's life-affirming, and it's upsetting. Where Do Soldiers Come From? 1 more week at the Sunset 5. I also want to mention that Tavis Smiley and Cornel West will be be holding an event in L.A. today as part of their National Poverty Tour. They've been down to Occupy L.A., and they will be today at the Wilshire Boulevard Temple, 3663 Wilshire Boulevard, 5 p.m., one of their events. Also, a great civic event taking place today, Cic La Via, CICLAVIA. 10 miles of roads have been cut off from auto traffic and open to bikes, scooters, and walking people. You can check it out if you just look up CICLAVIA.org, and you can see what the route is, and it's been going on. I think it goes until 5 o'clock today. The websites to learn more about Occupy Wall Street and Occupy LA are Occupy Wall Street, and I believe it's Wall Street, just st.org, and OccupyLosAngeles.org. They also have Facebook pages. You can listen to this week's conversation and many others anytime during the week by linking to the podcast. You can sign up to have it delivered to you weekly. And Clark Davis, thank you to all at Occupy Wall Street and Occupy LA. Stay tuned for Reggae Central with Chuck Foster.